The village of Umuahia, nestled deep in the heart of Imo State, was a tapestry of vibrant life and traditional beauty. Green hills rolled softly around the community, and the morning air was thick with the sweet scent of ripening mangoes and the distant sound of roosters. Ruth stood before a handcrafted wooden mirror, her hands trembling as she adjusted the delicate white lace of her wedding dress. Sunlight filtered through the mud brick walls of her family's compound, casting a warm golden glow that seemed to bless her transformation. "Stop moving," Ella teased, her younger sister's hands deftly pinning the intricate dress. The traditional white gown was a beautiful blend of Western wedding fashion and local craftsmanship, adorned with subtle embroidery that spoke of their Igbo heritage. "I can't help it," Ruth whispered, her nerves dancing like butterflies in her stomach. "Can you believe I'm getting married today?" Ella rió, un sonido tan brillante como la mañana. "Henry has been talking about this day for months. Everyone in the village knows how much he loves you." The door opened, and their mother Agnes entered. Dressed in a beautiful wrapper of deep blue and gold, she carried the wisdom of generations in her eyes. Though not Ruth's biological mother, she had raised Ruth with a love so pure it transcended blood. "My daughter," Agnes said, her voice warm and rich, "you look like a queen." The village church was a simple building of white-painted concrete, its walls adorned with local artwork and colorful fabrics. Wooden benches filled with relatives and friends created a vibrant mosaic of color and excitement. Women wore bright Ankara prints, their head wraps a beautiful statement of cultural pride. Henry waited at the altar, dressed in a crisp white agbada that highlighted his tall, strong frame. As a local teacher, he was respected in the community, a man of learning who still maintained deep connections to traditional values. The music began, a blend of traditional drums and modern instruments. Ella scattered flower petals, her movements graceful and practiced. Then Ruth appeared, and the church fell into a reverent silence. Her dress caught the light, a vision of white that seemed to glow from within. Her father walked beside her, his pride evident in every step. Henry's breath caught. Years of friendship, stolen glances during village gatherings, quiet conversations by the palm tree grove, all had led to this moment. "You are beautiful," he whispered as she reached him, using the traditional Igbo greeting of admiration. Reverend Chukwuma, a respected elder of the community, conducted the ceremony. He spoke of marriage not just as a union between two people, but as a connection between families, between community, between past and future. Their vows were exchanged in a mix of English and Igbo, a linguistic dance that reflected their modern yet traditional lives. When Henry placed the ring on Ruth's finger, the church erupted in joyful ululations. The reception was a celebration of life, love, and community. Tables groaned under the weight of traditional dishes: jollof rice, pepper soup, suya, and fresh fruits. Musicians played high-life music, and dancers moved with infectious energy. When they got home that day, as tradition, they began opening wedding gifts. Colorful packages contained practical items: cooking pots, traditional cloths, kitchen utensils, each a symbol of community support and blessing. But one gift stood out: a package wrapped in shimmering golden paper with no name or indication of its sender. "How strange," Henry murmured, turning the package over in his hands. Ruth carefully unwrapped it, revealing an antique mirror with an intricate golden frame. The glass seemed to have an unusual depth, almost like a window into another world. "It's beautiful," she breathed, her fingers tracing the delicate engravings. Henry felt an unexplained chill. Something about the mirror felt different, mysterious, almost alive. "Where shall we hang it?" he asked, pushing aside his momentary unease. As Ruth hung the mirror in their new home, a thin wisp of dark smoke seemed to dance momentarily in its reflection, unseen, unnoticed, but present. The wedding day ended with music, laughter, and the promise of new beginnings. But beneath the surface of joy, something was stirring. A narrative waiting to unfold, a mystery that would soon test the boundaries of Ruth and Henry's love. Little did they know that the golden-framed mirror would become the catalyst for a journey that would challenge everything they believed about their world, their love, and their future. The first few months of Ruth and Henry's marriage were filled with hope and dreams of starting a family. They would spend evenings talking about their future, imagining the children they would have, the home they would build together. Ruth would often sit by the window, her hands resting on her stomach, hoping that soon she would feel the flutter of new life. But fate had other plans. The first pregnancy came unexpectedly. Ruth's joy knew no bounds when she discovered she was expecting. Henry was equally thrilled, his eyes sparkling with excitement as he imagined holding their first child. "We'll have a beautiful nursery," Henry would say, sketching out plans for the baby's room. "I'm thinking of soft yellow walls, with maybe some animal paintings." Ruth would laugh, her hand intertwined with his. "You've already decided everything." Yet, as the weeks passed, something felt different. The mirror in their bedroom seemed to cast strange shadows, even when no one was moving. Sometimes, in the dead of night, Ruth would wake up feeling a cold presence, a heavy weight that made her skin crawl. One night, as Ruth slept peacefully, a dark, misty smoke began to seep from the mirror. It twisted and turned, forming a shadowy figure with dark, malevolent eyes. The creature moved silently towards Ruth, leaning over her sleeping form. When morning came, Ruth awoke to horror. Blood stained the sheets, and the crushing reality of her lost pregnancy hit her like a physical blow. Her screams echoed through the house, bringing Henry rushing to her side. "What happened?" Henry asked, his face pale with shock and fear. The doctors could offer no explanation. Sometimes, they would say gently, "These things happen." But it didn't stop there. Pregnancy after pregnancy ended the same way. Each time, Ruth would lose the baby, each loss cutting deeper into her heart, into their marriage. "Why is this happening to us?" Ruth would cry, her voice breaking. Henry tried to comfort her, but his own pain and frustration began to show. The repeated losses were wearing them down, creating invisible cracks in their once strong relationship. However, after some months, Ruth was pregnant again. Ruth sat at the edge of the bed, her hands resting softly on her stomach. The hope of motherhood burned within her like a fragile flame, both warming and threatening to extinguish at any moment. Around her, the sounds of the village slowly awakened, roosters crowing, distant chatter, the soft rustling of palm leaves. "I think this time will be different," she whispered to herself, a mantra of hope she had repeated countless times before. Henry entered the room, freshly dressed for his teaching job at the local school. His eyes, once bright with excitement and promise, now carried a weight of unspoken pain. He kissed Ruth's forehead, a gesture of love tinged with a profound sadness. "I'll be back this evening," he said softly, his voice lacking the enthusiasm of their early days of marriage. The first pregnancy had come with such joy. Ruth remembered the day she had told Henry how his eyes had lit up with a happiness she thought could move mountains. They had spent weeks planning, dreaming, imagining their future child. "We'll paint the nursery yellow," Henry had said then, spreading out sketches of a room filled with hope. "And I'll hang those animal paintings you love so much." Ruth had laughed, her hand intertwined with his. "You've already planned everything." But hope was a fickle companion. The first miscarriage had been devastating. Ruth remembered the morning she had awakened to blood-stained sheets, her screams echoing through the house. Henry had rushed in, his face a mask of shock and helplessness. The local doctors offered little comfort. Sometimes, they would say gently, "These things happen." But it didn't stop at one. Pregnancy after pregnancy ended the same way. Each loss carved deeper wounds into Ruth's heart, into their marriage. The strain began to show in Henry's increasingly distant demeanor, in Ruth's growing desperation. Ella, Ruth's younger stepsister, became their primary source of support. She would arrive early in the morning, bringing food, cleaning the house, offering comfort. "Don't lose hope," Ella would say, embracing Ruth tightly. "Your time will come." But hope was becoming harder to hold on to. One particularly difficult afternoon, Ruth found Henry sitting outside their home, staring into the distance. The weight of their struggles hung between them like an invisible barrier. "Maybe we should see another doctor," Ruth suggested, her voice soft, tentative. Henry's response was a tired shake of his head. "We've tried everything, Ruth. Everything." However, the mirror continued to hang in their bedroom, its golden frame now feeling more like a silent witness to their pain. Sometimes, out of the corner of her eye, Ruth could swear she saw movement within its reflection. A trick of light, perhaps, or something more sinister. As weeks turned into months, the silence between Ruth and Henry grew. Their once passionate conversations became shorter, more distant. The tender touches that once defined their relationship became rare, like distant memories fading at the edges. Their community began to notice. In their traditional Igbo society, where children were considered a blessing and continuation of the family line, their childlessness became a source of whispered conversations. Older women would look at Ruth with a mixture of pity and judgment. Men would give Henry sympathetic glances, their unspoken questions hanging in the air. At church gatherings, when other women spoke of their children, Ruth would sit silently, her hands folded in her lap, fighting back tears. Henry would look away, his discomfort palpable. One evening, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and deep purple, Ella came to visit. She found Ruth sitting by the window, the mysterious mirror casting long shadows across the room. "You can't give up," Ella said, sitting beside her sister. "There are still options. We could consult the traditional healers. We could—" "I've tried everything," Ruth interrupted, her voice a mixture of exhaustion and pain. "Every traditional method, every prayer, every hope." The mirror seemed to watch them, its golden frame catching the last light of day in an almost hypnotic manner. Henry's work as a teacher became his escape. He would leave early, return late, immersing himself in educating the village children, a substitute perhaps for the children he and Ruth could not have. Each child he taught became a temporary balm for his wounded heart. But at night, when silence descended and only the sounds of nocturnal creatures broke the quiet, the pain would return. Ruth would often find Henry sitting outside, staring at the stars, his silhouette a testament to unspoken grief. Their bedroom, once a sanctuary of love and intimacy, had become a battleground of unspoken tensions. The mirror hung silently, its presence growing more ominous with each passing day. Little did they know that darker forces were at work. Forces that moved in the shadows, that whispered in the reflections of antique mirrors, that fed on human pain and desperation. Forces that would soon tear their world apart in ways they could never have imagined. The mirror continued to watch and wait. As night fell over Umuahia, a thin, dark mist began to seep from its golden frame, unseen, unnoticed, but very much present. The story of Ruth and Henry was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning to unfold. Their home stood at the village's edge, a modest mud brick house with white-painted walls and a thatched roof that had weathered countless seasons. The garden was Ruth's pride, a carefully cultivated sanctuary of vibrant flowers, medicinal herbs, and carefully tended vegetables. Each plant was a testament to her hope, her nurturing spirit that longed to create life in more ways than one. Dawn broke softly over Umuahia. Ruth stood in the garden, her hands buried in the rich, dark soil. The morning air was thick with the scent of wet earth and flowering jasmine, a sensory reminder of life's persistent potential. Another day, she whispered to herself, a ritual of hope that had become both a prayer and a quiet rebellion against her circumstances. Inside the house, the antique mirror with its golden frame caught the first rays of sunlight. Its surface seemed to shimmer with an almost imperceptible movement, watching, waiting, holding secrets that pressed against the boundaries of reality. Henry emerged from the bedroom, dressed in his crisp teaching clothes. The weight of their struggles hung between them, invisible but unmistakably present. Mrs. Agnes, Ruth's stepmother, understood this complexity better than most. A woman of wisdom and compassion, she had seen generations navigate the delicate landscape of fertility and family expectations. One humid afternoon, as they sat in the kitchen preparing soup, Mrs. Agnes broke the silence. "Have you considered consulting the village healer?" she asked, her weathered hands peeling vegetables with practiced precision. Ruth's eyes grew distant, a familiar landscape of pain and exhaustion. "We've tried everything, Mama. Doctors in the city, traditional remedies, prayers at the church, consultations with herbalists. Nothing works." Each lost pregnancy was a wound that refused to heal. The first time had been devastating. Ruth had been so excited, transforming a small corner of their bedroom into a potential nursery. Soft blankets in pastel colors, tiny clothes carefully folded, a wooden rocking chair positioned just right. When the miscarriage happened, those carefully chosen items became painful reminders of dreams that dissolved like morning mist. The second pregnancy had been even more heart-wrenching. Ruth had been 5 months along, far enough to feel the baby's movements, to hear the heartbeat, to imagine a future. They had chosen names: Chidi for a boy, meaning God exists, and Amara for a girl, meaning grace. They had begun discussing which room would become the nursery, Henry sketching plans with the same enthusiasm he once reserved for designing lesson plans. "Maybe it's a sign," Henry would sometimes mutter during their darkest moments, his frustration a tangible presence in the room. Ruth would look at him, hurt and defiant. A sign of what? But Henry would just turn away, unable or unwilling to articulate the complex emotions churning inside him. The village women spoke in hushed tones, their conversations a delicate dance of concern and curiosity. "Poor Ruth," they would say, "such a lovely woman. Such bad luck." Ella, Ruth's younger stepsister, refused to accept this narrative. She became their strongest support, a beacon of hope and practical assistance. "Medical science is always advancing," she would say, helping Ruth in the garden or preparing healing herbal teas. "We come from strong women. Our family doesn't give up easily." But hope was becoming a fragile thing, a delicate thread that threatened to snap under the weight of repeated disappointments. Henry's transformation was subtle but unmistakable. The loving husband who would hold Ruth through her tears began to retreat into himself. He started spending more time with the village men, drinking palm wine, avoiding conversations about their future. One evening, after another failed pregnancy attempt, Henry returned home different, smelling of alcohol and an unfamiliar perfume that was definitely not Ruth's. "Where have you been?" Ruth asked, her voice more tired than accusatory. Henry avoided her eyes. "Out with friends." But Ruth knew something had changed. The trust that had once been the bedrock of their relationship was crumbling, stone by painful stone. The mirror remained a constant, its golden frame catching light in ways that seemed to defy natural explanation. Sometimes, in the quiet of the night, Ruth could swear she saw movement within its reflection, shadows that didn't quite align with the room's actual illumination. Little did they know that the mirror, that seemingly innocent wedding gift, was more than a mere object. It was a conduit, a gateway to forces far more complex and ancient than their human understanding could comprehend. The first sign of something wrong came like a whisper, soft, almost imperceptible, but growing more insistent with each passing day. Henry's absences became longer, his explanations shorter. The strange perfume on his clothes, a delicate scent that was neither Ruth's nor completely unfamiliar, began to tell a story of its own. Ruth stood in their garden one humid morning. The medicinal herbs she cultivated, bitter leaf, uziza, and African basil, seemed to be her only true companions. Each plant was a testament to her nurturing spirit, a spirit that had been crushed by years of lost pregnancies and growing distance. Ella, her younger sister, arrived early that day. Her movements seemed different, more careful, more guarded. She carried a basket of fresh produce, her smile bright, but her eyes holding something Ruth couldn't quite identify. "How are you?" Ella asked, helping Ruth in the garden. Ruth's laugh was bitter, the same as always, waiting, hoping, failing. But something was different about Ella, her frequent bathroom trips, her sudden changes in appetite, the way she would unconsciously rest her hand on her stomach. These were signs Ruth knew too well. "Are you feeling all right?" Ruth asked one evening, her intuition sharp as a blade. Ella's eyes darted away. "I'm fine," she said quickly. Too quickly. Ruth watched her closely, Ruth noticing Ella becoming a constant source of support. She was always around the house, and she would help around the house, cook meals, and try to lift Ruth's spirits. It was suspicious to Ruth, however she paid more attention to Ella, and then she found out. The truth, when it emerged, was like a thunderbolt that split their world apart. Ella was pregnant, and Henry was the father. The confrontation was brutal. Years of trust, of sisterly love, of marital commitment, all shattered in a moment. "How could you?" Ruth screamed, her voice raw with a pain that seemed to come from the deepest parts of her soul. "How could both of you?" Henry fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry," he repeated. "I never meant for this to happen." But sorry meant nothing in the face of such profound betrayal. Mrs. Agnes, Ruth's stepmother, intervened with a pragmatism that shocked everyone. "Ella will marry Henry," she declared. "The baby must have a father. The family's honor must be preserved." Ruth could not believe what she was seeing and hearing. However, the wedding took place. The wedding was a quiet, somber affair. Ruth watched, feeling like she was observing a nightmare from outside her own body. Her sister, now pregnant with her husband's child, wore a white dress that felt like a mockery of Ruth's own wedding day. But the true horror was yet to come. During Ella's baby celebration, a strange series of events unfolded. Mrs. Agnes's rival, Ella's biological mother, confessed to a dark secret involving a magical mirror. Years of hidden jealousy, of using supernatural means to destroy Ruth's life, came tumbling out. The mirror, it turned out, was no ordinary wedding gift. It was a conduit of dark magic, designed to track Ruth's life, to cause her repeated miscarriages, to destroy her marriage from within. When the mirror was accidentally broken, something unprecedented happened. Ella's mother seemed to lose her mind, running away into the streets. A man named Gatan came forward, claiming to be the true father of Ella's child. The revelations kept coming. Layer after layer of deception peeled away, exposing the raw, painful truth beneath. Henry, broken by guilt and shame, sought Ruth's forgiveness. He told her everything, the full truth about the betrayal, about the supernatural forces that had manipulated their lives. "I want to make things right," Henry whispered, tears in his eyes. But Ruth had made a choice, not for Henry, not for her family, but for herself. She would live her life somewhere else, somewhere far away from the evil she had seen. She decided to start over, completely, leaving behind the village, the memories, the pain. A new beginning awaited her, far from the shadows of their past, away from the supernatural forces that had tormented her. The journey led her to another village, a land of vast landscapes and endless possibilities. 2 months after her arrival, Ruth discovered she was pregnant again. This time, something felt different. Peaceful. Protected. When the twins were born, a boy and a girl, it felt like a miracle. A true blessing after years of darkness. The mirror was nothing more than a distant, painful memory. The supernatural forces that had tried to destroy them had failed. Love, it seemed, was more powerful than any dark magic. As Ruth held her newborn children, looking out over the vast landscape, she realized that healing was possible. That hope could bloom even in the most barren of landscapes. Her journey was complete, her redemption hard-won but absolute. The story of Ruth, Henry, Ella, and the mysterious mirror had come full circle, a testament to the power of resilience, forgiveness, and the unexpected ways that life can transform pain into something beautiful.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching. Kindly click the subscribe button, like, comment, and share this video. Watch out for more intriguing and eye-catching videos from your favorite YouTube channel.